I thought today I would vlog about my interest in the news. I'm a bit of a junkie, I guess, about the news. I like to follow the news. It's informative. To me, that's what it is. It's informative. I like knowing what's going on, and I like knowing what some of it means. And this goes way back. Back when I had a job. For many years, there were several of us who would meet for lunch at least once a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times during the week. We would always go to the same Chinese restaurant. We were so well known there. We were such regulars that the owner of the restaurant always gave us free soft drinks. And when he saw us coming, he would switch the flat panel TV on the wall from a sports channel to CNN because he knew we would spend the hour sitting there eating and talking about the news. And maybe he was even listening in and enjoying some of the things that we talked about. Recently, I rejoined another news discussion group. I was in a news discussion group before where we would meet every other Saturday. 6 or 8 of us. We would bring articles from the news. It might be a magazine or a newspaper, something online, and we would talk about it. Different ones would talk about whatever interested them. It could be the Russian invasion of Ukraine and annexing the Crimean Peninsula. It could be China building islands in the South China Sea to control that part of the Pacific. Different topics that interested us. I watch a lot of news during the day, although not because daytime TV. What's on TV? What are you going to watch? Soap operas? Daytime TV is not all that interesting. So I'll put on CNN or I'll put on MSNBC. My news day really begins around 3:30 because at 3:30, France 24 comes on. That comes out of Paris. It's in English, but it comes out of Paris. That's followed at 4 o'clock by NHK Newsline. That's out of Tokyo. 4:30 is DW News. That comes out of Berlin. 5 o'clock is BBC World News. That comes out of Washington. And then 5:30 is NBR, which is the nightly business reports. You see what the stocks are doing. I'm not invested, so I don't really care, but it's nice to know what the economy is doing. And then finally at 6 o'clock is BBC News, World News coming out of London. Those are the news programs that I watch, besides reading things online in online publications like the New York Times, Bloomberg, Washington Post, papers like that, publications like that. And as I was saying, the reason why is because I like to get together with people to talk about the news. And anyone can do this. How it's organized is through an online company called Meetup, meetup.com, MEETUP, meetup.com. You have to pay to organize a group. What they do is they take care of the advertising. So, for example, if there are members in the area who have expressed among their interest current events, then if you put up a news meetup and say you plan to meet somewhere, they will announce your meetup to people who are interested in current events, and then they can join if they want. The bad part about that is you never know who's going to show up, and sometimes there are people who show up just to cause trouble. So some people, what they do is they will put out a questionnaire first, and then you're approved whether or not to be a member of the group, and only if you're a member of the group do you find out where the group is going to meet, and every meeting they meet in a different place so that the trolls don't show up. You can do that if you want, if you're interested in the news. I like it because of something Noam Chomsky said that I heard him say many, many years ago in a video. He said, when it comes to getting the news, you want to get your news, if possible, from as many different sources as you can, because the different sources help you to filter out the bias. And there's some obvious examples. Here in the USA, if all you watch is MSNBC, especially Rachel Maddow, who I watch once in a while, you're always going to get the liberal bias. The one thing I don't like about Rachel Maddow is she gets snarky about the news, and I feel like, just tell me the news. I can develop my own attitude about the news. I don't need you to create the attitude for me. If you watch Fox News, you're going to get the conservative bias. BBC is kind of, not BBC, CNN. CNN is kind of in the middle. The problem with those stations is they need to broadcast commercials to make money. Commercials, really, for a lot of these networks, a lot of these TV stations, they call the commercials the content because that's where the money comes from. Everything in between is just the filler. So the news is the filler. The real content, those are the commercials because that's where the money comes from. So in order to get more money, they need to raise their popularity, and they do that by sensationalizing the news. Because the more popular that station is, the higher its rating. In other words, like the Nielsen rating or whatever. The higher the rating, the more they can charge for each commercial minute. It's money. It's money in the bank. And money drives a lot of interests, especially in this country, the USA. So what they'll do is they'll sensationalize the news. Some bridge collapses over some river in the Midwest. As many as 150 people could have died. You find out that 25 people are missing, presumed dead. But they find the biggest number they can when they interview the police or the fire department or the mayor or whatever. And then they go with the biggest number because they want it to be the most sensational so that you'll watch their news program. It's kind of like news as entertainment. So people can be sensationalized by it. Oh my gosh, so many people died. Well, that's how they get their ratings up. But that's the bias that creeps in. Do you get an honest story? So the programs that I watch starting at 3:30 during the day, those programs don't have commercials. BBC, typically they'll start off with a commercial, and it's actually the station that's putting out a commercial because the station needs money. But during the broadcast of the news, there's no commercial. There are no commercial breaks, and that's the point. Without those commercials being there, there's no need for them to try to sensationalize the news to improve their ratings so they can get more for each commercial minute. Also, by getting the same story from different angles, something happens in America. London's going to cover it one way, Berlin's going to cover it another way, Japan another way, Germany another way. You can kind of filter out the bias and you get the story. And oftentimes there's more than one angle to a story. I was watching Rachel Maddow this week, and she was talking about this Preet Bharara being fired. First he was asked to stay on by Donald Trump when Trump was the president-elect. This was back in November when he was elected as president, but he wasn't inaugurated into office yet. He met with Bharara in New York at the Trump Tower and asked him to stay on. So it was quite a surprise to Bharara's office when Trump all of a sudden said, "You're fired." Rachel Maddow, her angle on it was that because Bharara was involved a lot in the investigation of Deutsche Bank, which had helped the Russian oligarchy, the very wealthy people of Russia who were running the country, to launder illegally gained money through the system, through the stock market, so they could have this money. They could claim, well, we did very well on the stock market. And really they might have gotten the money through other deals. It had to be laundered, money laundering. Billions of dollars supposedly were laundered through Deutsche Bank. And Bharara was part of that investigation of that bank. She was trying to make the connection that Trump was connected with the oligarchy in Moscow. They're still investigating that. There was another news article that I read, and I actually covered it in a separate blog. I have a vlog, that's called Vlogging on the News. It's another YouTube channel. This is my third channel. I have 3 channels on YouTube. I have a cooking channel, I have a this vlog channel that you're watching now, and then I have a vlogging on the news channel that I just started. So there's only one story there right now. But I read a New York Times article where toward the end they said that any investigation, anything involving Trump Tower, would be under the purview of Mr. Bharara's office, because he was in Manhattan, in New York. And that was right around the time that Trump had claimed that the Obama administration, when he was president, Obama had wiretapped Trump Tower. Well, Bharara was an Obama appointee. And if you're trying to investigate Obama to make him look bad for potentially, possibly wiretapping Trump during the campaign, you're not going to use a judge, an attorney who's a Obama appointee. You're going to get a conservative Republican appointee. So that was my reason that I saw for pushing Bharara out and potentially eventually replacing him with a conservative judge, attorney. So these are the things that I get when I follow the news, and these are the things that I discuss if we're able to discuss it in some of these news groups. To be honest, sometimes they get off on all 6 cylinders talking about the latest conspiracy theory, and when they get into conspiracy theories, I just kind of sit back and wait. If the subject gets back to the news again, I might present something that I've brought with me to discuss. But if they want to stay with conspiracy theories, I don't care. I don't control the group. I don't want to control the group. I bring information with me. If a subject comes up and I happen to have an article about it, then I can contribute to the discussion. But if they want to get off on a subject for which I have no articles, then I have nothing really to join in on. I sit there and I listen and I enjoy the conversation. I actually like the meeting and the conversation, meeting with different people, hearing what their interests are, hearing what they follow. Some people follow local news, really local news, either city news or state news. Like I live in the state of California. In my case, I like world news. I want to know what China's doing, North Korea, different parts of Europe, Russia. That's what I enjoy following. So that's my interest in the news. If you like the idea of discussing news with other people, you might want to think about starting a meetup, either through meetup.com or actually set up a meeting on your own among your friends. Get together once a week or every other week and discuss points that you've learned in the news. It can really be informative because you alone, I know I alone, can't follow all the news articles that are out there, but you get stories, news articles from different people, and you learn a lot about the news, and you get different perspectives, what interests them, what interests you, and you can really learn a lot about what's going on in the world.